Jolene MacIntyre is known by many people because of her connection with the popular custom car world of Bad Chad Customs. For years, she was not just someone standing in the background, but a very important part of the business and its daily life. While many viewers mainly focus on the creative side of car building and the bold personality of Chad, Jolene played a quieter but extremely important role behind the scenes. She was involved in managing work, organizing tasks, and making sure that everything inside the business ran smoothly. Without people like her, even the most creative workshops can fall apart because there is always a lot of pressure, planning, and responsibility involved in such a fast-moving environment. At the beginning, Jolene's life may have looked simple from the outside, but it was full of constant movement and responsibility. Working in a place like Bad Chad Customs is not easy. It is not just about building cars, but also about dealing with deadlines, customer expectations, financial pressure, and emotional stress. Jolene became someone who held many of these responsibilities together. She was often described as the person who kept things stable when everything around her became busy or stressful. In many ways, she became the backbone of operations, even if she was not always in the spotlight. As time passed, the business grew in popularity, especially with the help of television and social media. This meant more attention, more customers, and more pressure. Jolene had to adjust to this growing demand while still keeping things under control. She worked long hours and often handled problems that others did not even see. From scheduling work to solving last-minute issues, her role became more and more important. While many people saw success and fame from the outside, the reality behind the scenes was much more demanding. Jolene's journey became one of quiet dedication, responsibility, and constant effort to keep everything moving forward. As Bad Chad Customs became more well-known, the pressure inside the business increased greatly. This is where Jolene's role became even more difficult. She was not only managing tasks but also dealing with emotional and physical stress that came with a fast-growing business. Working in such an environment means there is always something happening: new projects, customer demands, deadlines, and unexpected problems. Jolene often had to stay calm in situations where others might feel overwhelmed. Her daily life was filled with long working hours and constant problem-solving. In many cases, she had to make quick decisions to keep projects moving forward. This kind of responsibility can slowly build up pressure over time. Even though she was strong and committed, no one can ignore stress forever. The workload she carried was heavy, and it required both emotional strength and mental focus. People around her often saw her as someone reliable, someone who could be trusted to handle difficult situations without panic. But behind this strong image, there was also exhaustion. Like many people in demanding jobs, Jolene experienced moments where she felt tired and overwhelmed. The balance between work and personal life became harder to maintain. In industries like custom car building, passion often mixes with pressure, and it becomes difficult to separate work from personal emotions. Jolene was deeply involved in her work, which made it even harder for her to step away from stress. Over time, this constant pressure began to affect her emotional well-being. Even strong people have limits, and Jolene was no exception. The responsibility of keeping everything together slowly turned into emotional weight. Still, she continued pushing forward because she believed in the work and the people around her. Her dedication showed how committed she was, even during difficult times. The most painful moment in Jolene MacIntyre's life came when she experienced a deeply personal loss: the passing of her beloved mother in late 2024. This event changed everything for her emotionally. Losing a parent is one of the hardest experiences a person can go through, and for Jolene, it came during a time when her life was already full of responsibility and pressure. This made the pain even heavier and harder to process. Her mother was an important part of her life, and their bond carried emotional strength and support. When that connection was suddenly gone, Jolene faced a deep emotional shock. It was not just sadness, but a feeling of emptiness and confusion that followed her every day. Even simple tasks became harder because grief affects both the mind and the body. People around her could see that she was going through something very painful, even if she tried to stay strong on the outside. At the same time, life inside the business did not stop. Work continued, deadlines continued, and responsibilities still needed attention. This created a difficult situation where personal grief and professional pressure existed at the same time. It is very hard for anyone to balance emotional pain with daily responsibilities. Jolene found herself in a position where she had to continue functioning while dealing with one of the hardest emotional experiences of her life. This moment became a turning point in her journey. It marked the beginning of a struggle between emotional collapse and the need to keep going. The tragedy did not only affect her personal life but also had an impact on her work and stability. After the loss of her mother, Jolene entered a period of deep emotional struggle. Grief does not follow a simple path. It comes in waves, sometimes calm and sometimes overwhelming. For Jolene, every day became a challenge. There were moments of silence, moments of sadness, and moments where everything felt too heavy to handle. Even though she tried to continue her responsibilities, her emotional strength was being tested in ways she had never experienced before. At work, things still needed attention, but her focus was not always the same. Simple tasks required more effort, and decision-making became harder. People around her may have noticed changes in her energy and mood. This is natural when someone is dealing with loss. Grief affects concentration, motivation, and even physical health. Jolene was going through all of this while still trying to maintain her role. The emotional pressure also created internal conflict. On one hand, she wanted to keep going and stay strong. On the other hand, she was dealing with pain that could not be ignored. This kind of emotional conflict is very difficult because there is no simple solution. You cannot pause life completely, especially when responsibilities depend on you. Jolene found herself trapped between personal healing and professional survival. During this time, support from others became important. Even small acts of understanding or kindness can make a difference during grief. However, emotional healing takes time, and everyone processes loss differently. Jolene's journey through grief was not quick or easy. It was a slow and painful process that affected every part of her life. Despite everything she was going through, Jolene made the difficult decision to continue moving forward. This was not easy, and it required a lot of inner strength. Many people in similar situations reach a point where they feel like giving up, but Jolene chose to keep fighting through her responsibilities. This does not mean the pain disappeared. It simply means she tried to balance her life as best as she could. Her work environment continued to demand attention, and she had to stay involved in important decisions. Even when she felt emotionally exhausted, she still showed up and did what was needed. This shows the kind of resilience she had, even in her most difficult moments. However, resilience does not mean absence of struggle. It simply means continuing despite difficulty. There were likely moments when everything felt overwhelming. Pressure from work combined with emotional grief creates a heavy burden for anyone. Jolene had to manage both at the same time. This kind of situation tests a person's limits and forces them to rethink priorities in life. Through this period, her story became one of survival under emotional pressure. It showed how life can change suddenly and how people are forced to adapt even when they are not ready. Her experience reflects a reality that many people face, but rarely talk about openly. Jolene MacIntyre's story is not just about success or tragedy alone. It is about the human experience of balancing work, responsibility, and emotional pain at the same time. Her journey reflects how life can look successful on the outside while still being very difficult on the inside. Many people in demanding careers experience similar struggles, even if they are not visible to the public. Her experience also shows the importance of emotional strength and support during hard times. Losing a loved one while managing a busy life can deeply affect a person's mental and emotional health. Jolene's journey reminds us that behind every strong person, there are moments of weakness, pain, and struggle that are not always seen. In the end, her story represents resilience. Not perfect resilience, but real human resilience, the kind that includes pain, struggle, and effort to move forward even when things are difficult. It shows that strength is not about never breaking down, but about continuing even after life becomes hard. After the tragedy and emotional struggle that Jolene MacIntyre went through, her presence in the daily life of Bad Chad Customs began to feel different. Even though she was still part of the environment, The emotional weight she carried changed the way she worked and interacted with everything around her. In a busy and high-pressure workshop like Bad Chad Customs, every person plays an important role, and when one key person is emotionally affected, the entire system can feel the impact. Jolene was not just a background worker. She was someone who helped organize, manage, and stabilize the flow of work. Because of this, her emotional state naturally influenced the rhythm of the workplace. In environments like custom car building, there is always a constant need for focus, speed, and decision-making. Projects are often time-sensitive, and delays can create pressure not only on workers but also on clients and business reputation. When Jolene began going through deep grief after losing her mother, it became harder for her to maintain the same level of emotional energy she once had. This does not mean she stopped caring or stopped trying. Instead, it means that her emotional strength was being divided between personal healing and professional responsibility. This kind of situation is very common in real life, where people must continue working even while dealing with personal pain. The people around her likely noticed changes, even if they did not always speak about them openly. Sometimes grief does not appear in dramatic ways. It can show in small things, such as tired expressions, quieter communication, slower decision-making, or moments of emotional distance. These subtle changes can affect teamwork and workflow without anyone directly pointing them out. In a close working environment like Bad Chad Customs, where teamwork is essential, even small emotional shifts can influence the overall energy of the space. At the same time, the business itself continued to grow in attention and public interest. With more viewers, more expectations, and more pressure from outside, the internal stress naturally increased. This created a difficult contrast for Jolene. On one side, she was dealing with deep personal grief. On the other side, she was in a work environment that required constant attention and energy. Balancing these two worlds is extremely challenging, even for the strongest individuals. Despite everything, Jolene's contribution to the business did not disappear. She continued to be involved in important responsibilities whenever possible. However, the emotional strain made the process harder and slower than before. This period of her life reflects a reality that many people experience, but rarely talk about openly: the struggle of continuing work life while silently carrying emotional pain. Her story during this time shows that strength is not always about performance. Sometimes it is simply about continuing to show up, even when everything inside feels heavy and difficult to manage. As time moved forward, Jolene MacIntyre's story became more than just a personal tragedy. It began to represent something larger: the hidden emotional struggles behind public success and growing businesses. From the outside, people often see only the results: successful projects, popular content, and a functioning business. But behind those results, there are real human emotions, personal sacrifices, and silent battles that are not always visible. Jolene's journey is a reminder that success does not remove pain, and visibility does not protect someone from emotional hardship. Her experience highlights an important truth about life in high-pressure creative industries like custom car building. These environments demand constant energy, creativity, and problem-solving. While they can be exciting and rewarding, they can also become emotionally draining over time. When personal tragedy is added on top of that pressure, it can create a situation where even simple daily tasks feel overwhelming. Jolene's story shows how life does not pause for emotional recovery, and people are often forced to keep moving even when they are not fully ready. Another important part of her journey is the idea of silent strength. Not all struggles are loud or visible. Some people carry their pain quietly while still continuing their responsibilities. Jolene represents this kind of strength. She did not stop life from moving forward, but she also did not escape the emotional weight she was carrying. Instead, she lived through both at the same time: grief and responsibility, pain and duty, loss and continuation. This combination is what makes her story deeply human and relatable. Her experience also reminds us that emotional recovery is not a straight path. It is not something that happens quickly or in a simple way. There are good days and bad days, moments of strength and moments of weakness. People who go through loss often learn to adapt rather than fully recover in the way others might expect. Jolene's journey reflects this reality. She did not suddenly return to normal life, because normal itself had changed after her loss. In the end, her story is not just about tragedy. It is about endurance. It is about the quiet strength it takes to continue living and working while carrying emotional weight that others may never fully see. It is about how life can change suddenly and how people must find ways to adjust, even when they feel unprepared. Jolene MacIntyre's experience stands as a reminder that behind every public story, there is a private human life filled with emotions, struggles, and moments of both breaking and rebuilding. As the months passed after the most painful events in Jolene MacIntyre's life, the intensity of the initial shock slowly began to settle into something quieter, but not easier. Grief does not simply disappear with time. Instead, it changes shape. For Jolene, this meant learning how to live with a different emotional reality. The sharp pain of loss became a constant background feeling, something she carried while still trying to move forward in her daily life. Life did not return to what it once was, and in many ways it never could. Instead, she had to adapt to a new version of normal, one where memories and responsibilities existed side by side. In the world of bad Chad customs, work continued as it always did. Projects still needed attention, customers still expected results, and the workshop still carried its fast-moving energy. But for Jolene, the experience of being there had changed. Places and routines that once felt normal now carried emotional weight. Even familiar tasks could bring back memories